In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at how we can use betting exchanges such as Betfair to our advantage as match bettors. So as match bettors, it's vital for us to have an exchange like Betfair, as it gives us the opportunity to lay off our qualifying bets at the bookie for minimal loss, and in turn free up our bonus bets. And again, what we can do there is lock in a profit by covering all outcomes with our bonus bet. Whereas traditional bookmakers, they make their money through something called an over round. We won't go into too much detail of them, but essentially what it is the bookie offering you poor odds. So for instance, if you was to bet $1 on a coin toss at a bookie, they're going to likely offer you the odds of something like 1.9, 1.8, but the actual probability is a 50-50 event, so the odds should be 2.0. So if you imagine that punter A is betting $1 on heads at the odds of 1.9, and then punter B bets $1 on tails at 1.9, doesn't matter what the outcome is, the bookie's going to have to pay 90 cents out to one of the punters, but they're going to gain $1 from the other one. So each time that's happening, they're gaining 10 cents. And you can imagine over a significant amount of bets, that soon adds up. Whereas betting exchanges don't actually set their own odds, and it's actually set by the users. So when the majority of users at Betfair want to back a certain outcome, that's going to bring the odds down, and when they want to oppose a certain outcome, that's going to bring the odds up. So this usually results in better odds at a betting exchange, as there isn't an over round. Obviously they still have to make their money, and they do this by charging commissions on your profits. But we'll dive a little bit more into that as we go through the video. So what we'll do first is we'll jump into a sporting event, as the markets are a lot less volatile than they are in the racing events, so we'll dive into a racing event after. So firstly we'll take a look at this game, so it's Inter versus Juventus. But once you actually open up the certain event, the main markets are going to jump to the top, so that's usually going to be the head-to-head markets in most cases, and then underneath you can have all the popular events as well, or popular markets I should say. As stated earlier, the flow of money that goes into a sporting market kind of just goes up nice and gradually, quite slowly. It'll still be the last kind of hour or so where you get the most money matched in a sporting event as well, but the odds will not jump around too much. The only thing that can really drastically change odds in a sporting event is, say for instance, in this match here, the team news come out and Inter Milan had 2 or 3 key players out which nobody knew about, and all of a sudden a lot of people are going to be jumping on and laying Inter Milan, and in turn that's going to bring up the back odds here. So the first thing to note here is the total amount matched. There's been quite a lot matched in this game already, so $221,000, as it is quite a big Serie A game, and there's still 3 days to go there as well, so it'll probably likely be well over $1 million by the time this game actually starts. And where a lot of people do get confused once they first log into Betfair and they head into a certain event, that you see all these boxes, and it can look a little bit confusing, but it's not actually as bad as it first seems. So the most important boxes are these 2 coloured boxes. So you've got the blue boxes for backing, so you'll be backing a certain outcome, saying Inter Milan will win if you select this box. And then if you lay your opposing Inter Milan, saying that Juventus or the draw will occur, so they're all in the red boxes. And all these numbers next to it in these white boxes are what we call a queue, and these are basically traders who are offering slightly worse prices at the moment. As match bettors, 90% of the time we're going to be focusing on the lay boxes, as we're just trying to lay off our bonus bets and our qualifying bets. So these are primarily the ones we're going to be looking at. And if you look inside these boxes as well, you can see some figures in here. So for instance, if you was to lay Juventus here, there'd be $36 ready to be matched on Juventus to lay them. And after that, once the $36 have gone, the next best available odds are going to be 5.8, and there's $82 ready to be matched there. So for instance, if you needed to lay $50 on Inter Milan, what you would do is you would select them, you put your $50 stake in. Obviously I won't do that now because I don't have any bets on them. But once you placed your bet, $36 of your bet will be matched, but you'll still be waiting for $14 ready to be matched. So what I'll do is I'll just quickly put in an order here, which I know that won't be matched. And then what would happen is you would have partially matched lay bet here. And then you do have a few options. You can either keep the bet, and if you select keep, you would need it to be matched in play at those specific odds. Or if you take the starting price, then what Betfair will do is they will automatically calculate your lay stake and lay it at whatever starting price they go off at. So just on a side note as well, in a market like this where there's been a few $100,000 matched, you're going to be usually fine to get your bets matched, or even if they get partially matched, the odds aren't going to be too far apart, so you're not going to lose out too much. Where you do need to be careful is in low liquidity markets, where there's going to be a lot of gaps in the market. So if, for instance, if it was like a South Korean second division game or something like that, you may only have a few $100s matched, and these boxes will look a lot different, so there won't be that much ready to be matched, and these boxes here, there'll be significant gaps between the back and the lay odds and the next odds available. So they're the kind of markets that you want to avoid, especially if you're betting on markets like that with a bookie. You're going to stand out like a sore thumb, as there's not going to be a lot of people betting on those markets. So it's always better to try and stick to the bigger kind of markets when you can. And the other thing to note as well, we did talk a little bit about the commission earlier. So for all sporting events, the commission rate will usually be 5%. And then the only exception for that will be NRL, so they are 10%. So as a result of that, NRL is not usually the best place for turning over your bonuses or like meeting your wagering requirements or things like that. But if you ever do get stuck, you can always just come up to the rules box up here, and once you select the rules, and you can see with this one here, there's a 5% market base rate for this particular event on this sport. But what we'll do now is we'll jump into a racing market, as they can be a little bit more volatile, and there's a few little tips and tricks in there that can help make your life a little bit easier. So we'll jump into this race here at Mornington. It's about 8 minutes to the jump here. And you can see in this particular market, it's $24,000 that's already been matched. But what you're going to notice in horse racing, especially on the bigger races as well, the last 5 or so minutes, especially the last couple of minutes, this figure will jump up quite a significant amount as well. And in turn, what that is going to do is it's going to make these back and lay odds jump about a little bit, as you're going to have a lot of other traders in here and match bettors. So it can be a little bit more extreme in these markets, but there's a few little things we can do to make our life a little bit easier, which I'll show you now. So the first thing you can do is come up to settings, and once you select settings, you've got your main settings here, and the first two to really note here are going to be the display net of commission and display the what if figure. So it's good to have these selected. So for instance, if we was to place a $10 bet on this horse here, you can see at the moment it says we're going to win $27.90. So that's taking the commission into account as well. But then if we come up and we uncheck the display net of commission box, it now jumps up to $30. So it's always nice just to have that ticked, so you know what your true figure is going to be. And the display what if figure at the moment, you can see if this top horse won, Anointed Lad, we would profit $27.90, and any other horse wins, we'd lose $10. That's essentially what the what if figure is. If you took that off, you wouldn't have anything there, so it's always just handy to keep that one on as well. Probably the most important one here, so it's going to be in the betting settings. And if you go to the refresh rate, I've got it set to 1 second at the moment. But a lot of the time when you first log into Betfair, it might be selected at 15 seconds. And you can see at the moment when it's selected to 15 seconds, nothing's really happening to these odds as they're not refreshing. If you drag this down to 1 second, you can now see the odds are jumping about a little bit more now. So it's just nice to keep them refreshing. You do also have the option of just pressing the manual refresh button up here yourself. So a good option as well, as we spoke earlier about the keep and the take SP option. A lot of the time in racing, we just place a lay bet on this horse, make sure we don't get matched. If you get partially matched lay bets on here, it's always best just to take the starting price. Unless you've got a little bit more experience, your best option is always going to be to take the starting price, because if you're trying to fiddle about and use the advanced calculator for your partially matched lay bets, the odds are going to be jumping about a bit and it can just get a bit confusing. Often you'll just get matched at the price that you wanted anyway, and if not, it's not going to usually work too much against you. If you press keep, you do have the chance of being matched in play, but you're putting yourself at unnecessary risk. That's not really the best option there. So I think that's really it for the settings. The other one actually, sorry, down here you've got the default stake. So I've got 3 different default stakes set up here. So you can select edit and put whatever you want in these boxes. This is quite handy if you just do a flat stake for your underlay. So a lot of the time I will just flat stake at $35. And you jump down here, you've got your default stake, so you can select whichever one you want. So $35 is selected right now. If I was to lay one of these horses, select the lay box, you can see the lay stake automatically is put in the backer stake box, and you can just press place bet and confirm. And the other thing just to talk about with the commission rates for horse racing. So for horse racing, any races in New Zealand will be a 5% commission, and then New South Wales and ACT are 10% commission, and then anywhere else in Australia is 7%, and then pretty much everywhere else in the world is 5% as well. But remember, you can always just select this rules box again if you're unsure. And just to note as well, it doesn't matter where you are, it actually matters where the race is. So if you was in New Zealand and you was betting on a race in New South Wales, your commission rate's still going to be 10%. It won't be 5% because you're in New Zealand. And then vice versa, if you're betting in New South Wales on a race in New Zealand, the commission rate's going to be 5%. So I think that will just about do it for this video. And you can see this match figure here now, it's already gone up by about $30,000, so it's more than doubled already. There's still another couple of minutes to go as well. If you do have a paid account with us as well, it's a good idea just to jump into the Understanding Betfair course, and there's a few more articles that go into a little bit more detail if you're interested. Or if you do have any questions, feel free to ask and we'll be happy to help. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Cheers.